say you have an artist and like a Sauce Walker who is very, very popular in his area. Very well known all through that Houston area, Texas in general. That's the guy around there. But he's not nearly as big in other places. And he's okay with that. That doesn't bother him at all. Does that make him an underrated artist?
Nah, I feel like that makes him more slept on. Like, where it's like, he knows that if he were to go and market himself more in, like, because he gets love in other places, obviously, but, like, Texas is one of those states where it's big enough to where you can just make your run and make your fortune in just Texas and the surrounding areas, just the South in general almost. But if he were to go, like, more out west, like to Cali or even like up north and shit like that, he could get more fans, but he just doesn't care. Like, he's just gonna keep making the music that he's making for the people that already like it. If he gains new fans, cool. If not, he's gonna make his money off his section regardless. Like, his core fan base is pretty big. So
does it make him still slept on if he doesn't care enough to market himself out there? If they're making,
because these are
they
like,
making a choice not to listen to him if they don't really know about him like that? Although, I mean, I'm sure everybody, for the most part, if you listen to hip hop, you know who Sauce Walker is. He's a personality.
But it's almost like a lot of people rather watch the antics than listen to his music. So it's like with him, because he does make good music. So it's like he's not necessarily underrated. Like, I feel like he's rated just at about where he feels like where he wants to be at. He probably feels like he should be a little higher, but it's about fair for him. But he's definitely slept on whenever it comes to, like, the general public consensus on, is Sauce Walker a star or not? Like, we know he's a star. Like, there's nobody in the actual rap game.
He has every characteristic.
No other artist, no other rapper, like our favorite rappers, from anybody, from old head to new person, their favorite rappers still know who Sauce Walker is, even if his songs aren't played on the radio. Like, he's never probably gonna get that type of accolade. He's not a Grammy winning, like, art. He might, like, he might get a song on the radio. He might win a Grammy, all this shit, but, like, he's perfectly fine with not. Like, this man went at Drake super early on in his career, like, remixed back to back and called it Whack to Whack, and literally dished the shit out of Drake on the whole song. It was funny as hell. But at the end of the day, like, you do some shit like that, you don't expect to get songs played on the radio. You don't really expect Grammy nominations and shit like that, because at the end of the day, like, you kind of have to be able to rub shoulders and shit like that with people like that to even be in those rooms, in a sense. And if you're already, like, people don't even really know your name, and that's how they're finding out about you, is because they're dissing Drake, like, you kind of exclude yourself from a lot of conversations early. So I think he's more so slept on. But that's a very thin line. Because a lot of people probably think he's overrated,
I do feel that. But I feel like if somebody, in a situation like, it's hard to really knock, like, the contribution, the talent, the music, the ability. If you think somebody who does have, he might not have, like, obviously doesn't have, since we're already talking about him, nothing near no Drake stats.
Right.
Not many people have Drake stats.
Right.
Even though he doesn't have Drake stats, to say he's overrated with the stats he has, that's more outside of even underrated or anything. That's a situation of people just hating someone.
Mm-hmm.
That's hate.
Yeah, that's just them not liking him and the antics.
And it's like, I mean, any kind of emotionally driven dislike for somebody's music like that, it's not driven by any statistic, meter of talent, gauge of anything they're doing. Once you hate somebody, it's all that other shit goes out the window.
Facts.
6ix9ine
could drop the most popular song tomorrow. I don't give a damn if my mom's playing it. Fuck that song.
With that said, welcome back to another episode of Forreal, the podcast where we try to bridge the gap between what's going on in rap and everyday society. If you can't tell, we're kind of talking about underrated artists, I guess, would really be the theme of today, is underrated artists. But we're kind of going to touch a little bit on other stuff too, because there's the topic's a lot deeper than that. More than just underrated, overrated. Like a lot of this stuff like we're just mentioning, it comes from things like people being hated. Sometimes a lot of people just dislike people for no reason at all, and they try to say they're overrated, underrated, or meter their talent or gauge what they're capable of based on stuff that doesn't even matter. And then there's other artists who have so much talent and they're capable of so much, who they just they don't market themselves properly or do what they need to do, and they just don't get the notice that they should. So it's just a deep topic in general.
Talking about underrated artists, the whole Griselda movement, from Benny the Butcher, West Side Gun, Conway the Machine, all these old head dudes that just hate like artists like Lil Uzi Vert, or like even Lil Baby, Durk, all like the artists, the old heads that hate the music like that are not listening typically to the Benny the Butchers, the fucking, even like artists like Dave East is like coming from New York and shit like that, where there are super lyrical artists nowadays that are reminiscent of the old school feel with a lot of the new school style, but then it's like they're underrated. Like they're not getting the proper, even Rhapsody, that's a female rapper that like pretty much nobody talks about, where she's barring most dudes to death. It's not even close. Like she comes from North Carolina and shit like that, like close to where my brother stays and shit. But like nobody really talks about her like that. But like people want to complain always about like, oh, rap music is not the same and da da da. You're right, it's better because it has everything now.
It does have, yeah,
it has literally whatever you want back then and then some. So
does that fall back on just like a lot of people just kind of accepted that music isn't what it used to be, and whether or not there's music like that or not, they just a long time ago accepted that music isn't what it once was, so it doesn't matter if there's a newer generation artist, it doesn't matter what type of music they're making, they can't be making music like that because music isn't what it once was.
Correct.
And that's just that mentality they get stuck in.
A lot of people, because we're talking about the general public's opinion on it, because like at the end of the day, we know all these artists that we're about to talk about, but it's like the rap public is very much so a pop culture at the end of the day. So if it's not like artists like Uzi or like Baby or even Lil Baby and shit like that, they don't really know who Rhapsody is, because those aren't the artists that are on the radio. Those aren't artists that are gonna pop up on their fucking Spotify or Pandora playlist, because these motherfuckers aren't actually going and looking for new music like you and I are and shit like that. So at the end of the day, like they're gonna end up staying underrated, and most of these artists don't give a fuck. Like I guarantee Rhapsody don't care, because she knows she's hard. Anybody that's into female rap specifically, like that's looking for lady artists and shit like that, killing the game. She like, I don't think there's probably anybody that I know of that like, there's other artists that can compete, but she's
well, if you want to be that Lil Baby or that Uzi, you already should know going into hip hop. No, this is just my opinion. I'm not knocking that type of music. I like lyrical rap more than anything. I like more old school technical rap a lot. I enjoy just sitting on a mic and rapping over trying to make a song all day long. But if that's the type of music you want to make, you need to accept the second you get into rap, correct me if I'm wrong, that you're not going to be that big billboard Baby or Uzi. That's not what people want to listen to.
Usually, unless you're a J.
hate to
Cole
your music.
Correct. But if you know anything about rap and you're trying to be let's use fucking Big Crit as an example. Big Crit is like one of those like super underrated artists where it's like he makes quality music. Nobody talks about him. People kind of just brush him off to the side. He came up in that same group with like the J. Cole, the Kendricks, the Drakes, that same time period. Fire shit, has classic mixtapes, like hard ass projects. Don't nobody really be talking about him, because at the end of the day, he's kind of, his personality and not his I don't know, it's like he just doesn't, it's the same thing like Sauce Walker, where he just doesn't really care. Like if you know about him, you know about him. If you don't, oh well. Like you're kind of missing out in his mind, which is exactly how artists should feel. Like, but at the end of the day, like it makes him underrated in the grand scheme of things. Even like an artist like Fabulous, like he has hits. Like nobody can say that he's a bad artist. He will not get the credit that he should get, unfortunately, probably until he passes. Because like once people revisit and then look at the whole career, like this motherfucker's been rapping like as long as we've been alive, pretty much. Like he got picked up early. He was around the whole BMF era and stuff. He is a solidified street dude. Has had all these like little metamorphoses in his career and like kept rebranding himself and rebirthing himself. People don't ever talk about that. Like they just kind of Fab's Fab. He's cool. Like nah, that he's a great lyricist. He is changing with the culture, changing with the times. Like nigga don't age on some fucking Forreal shit. Like he's always fresh. Nigga be dead fresh all the time. He grew up in the 90s, like the crack era and like shit like that. Where it's like this is a whole different style. He keeps changing his style. Like we got to give people more credit for shit like that. But the general public doesn't really care about it until it's gone. Nipsey was underrated until he died. That's just a fact. Like. And slept on, underrated, slept on, whatever word you can think of, where until he unfortunately met his untimely demise, the general public did not value him as they should have. And then once he died, everybody jumped on that fucking bandwagon. Oh, digging up the old shit. Oh, he owns his own masters. Oh, he was selling these mixtapes for $100. What the fuck? Like, yeah, bitch, if you was tapped in, you was tapped in. But if you weren't, oh well. Like, that's how artists like Nip, Sauce Walker, Griselda, fucking K Breezy, the dude from Chicago. That's how all them artists operate. Where it's like, if you know, you know. If you don't, you missing out.
But there's a level of marketing, applying yourself, growing, and continuously releasing better and better content, hard work that you have to put in. And if you don't all the time, it's almost like I saw this video one time on YouTube, and this guy had like the crazy to hot ratio on the on females, and it's almost like there's a similar like chart with these artists with like the talent to work they're willing to put in. Like you can have all the talent in the world if some of them just aren't applying it properly, and that's putting them in a pocket where they're always just going to be this rapper. They're great, but they're not that.
Right. That's real.
Or you can put in all the work in the world. If you don't have a lick of talent, you're never even going to be that.
Hard work beats talent when the talent don't work hard.
And then, of course, because then there's these other artists like a Sauce Walker who is unbelievably talented, and it's not a matter of hard work. He's willing to put in all the work in the world. He's okay not doing that much, and you see the cap on the music.
Right.
Where that starts to come. Because once you do choose to, it's a full-time job. Everybody be out here thinking they're going to get this fucking lucky break. These people who don't have any idea how this shit fucking works.
If you get a lucky break, you're not going to keep it. So
look at Lil Nas X. That's a lucky break.
Yeah, yes and no, because at the end of the day, that's what I thought too at first. But I'm going to give him more credit because this kid is a top 5 interneter in this generation. Like, this motherfucker is really good at marketing himself on the internet, responding to comments to where it's like, I thought Old Town Road was going to be it. Like, he's dropped a few more, like, very popular songs since then.
And he could continue to make music, and he will probably grow.
Now, this might be like what Ebro thought that was going to happen with Lil Uzi Vert, though. That's what I'm getting at, like, where it's like, I'm not saying he's going to last 20, 30 years. He may, but I don't see that for Lil Nas X. I feel like it's going to be like a few more years and it's going to burn out. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't know personally, but I feel like he's an artist where he's getting writers. So if he can keep this image and, like, get people interested in his what he has going on, they'll continue to give him songs. If he starts to slip up and isn't in the public's eye and I think he'll fall to the wayside like a lot of the other artists.
Well, there's a point where, because I do feel like he gets, like, Old Town Road to me, regardless of what anybody says, is a lucky break. That song is, I don't give a fuck what anybody says, that was a lucky break.
Right.
Now, what he does with that lucky break can be a product of working hard.
Correct.
But that shit was lucky. I feel like he mostly gets by on shock value right now. He does wild shit, and people kind of jump to it because
same thing with Tekashi.
Yes, correct. It's
If
the
you
exact
can
same
get people talking, good or bad, it doesn't matter. We've seen Donald Trump do it. We've seen Kanye do it. Like that's a very, very interesting line that you're trying to tread. Like,
but I feel like, in hip hop, you still have to release music, or you are going to become nothing but an internet personality.
But see,
you can be an influencer. You can be an
that
internet
goes back to what we were
personality.
talking about too, though. With like, we got to do a whole episode breaking down the different genres because Lil Nas X is a pop star still.
Yes,
He's a rapper. He is in the rap community, of course, but rap music is pop music. Lil Nas X is strictly a pop star.
Mm-hmm.
There is not, just like Cardi B. Cardi B's not a top female rapper because it's a fact she doesn't write her own lyrics. Cardi B is a pop star.
He's a rap Katy Perry.
Correct.
Yes, like there was we can
That's
do
probably
something
the
with
best.
this.
Mm-hmm. There's an image here. There's a
Versus
fan base
like
here.
a Uzi, and Uzi is more of a rap Lady Gaga. Like, he has the whole package.
Right.
He has the shock value. He came in wild.
Mm-hmm.
People didn't think this would last.
Right,
People
no.
thought this would be done in a few years.
Flash in the
and
pan.
he's still done nothing but grow and grow.
But that
and
was a
grow.
lot more product of hard work. That's what people weren't seeing. People thought that it was a lot more like a Lil Nas X. But at the end of the day, it's the complete opposite. Lil Uzi Vert is... And not to like take anything away from Lil Nas X, like his career is gonna be dope. He's gonna make hella money. He's gonna be rich probably for the rest of his life off this shit. But at the end of the day, he does not have that like true artistry. He just knows how people think. You know, like at the end of the day, like there's a way to, and there's a team behind him. That's what people also got to understand. Like it's not just like the Tyler the Creator type of creative brain where it's just him and his homies in the crib on some shit like Me and You, and they're cooking up all these ideas.
But you see, I don't mean any disrespect when I say this. I don't know how to put this without this sounding really cold. But like Tyler the Creator sitting at home with his homies doing that, that's the equivalent of theater nerds coming together to make a play. It's passion. It's all that. Lil Nas X is the equivalent to pretending to play DBZ with your homies in the front yard. Like, we just clowning right now.
Right, yeah.
And like I said, I don't mean any disrespect, because if people like it and it does something for them, let them be entertained.
Yeah, Lil Nas X is still an artist at the end of the day, but it's just like whenever it comes to like true artistry, you know,
it's just a little more fun to him than it is. It's a little more of a get up to him than it is
a lifestyle.
Correct. It's not very passionate. It doesn't seem. It seems like when he gets a little older, he might not even really enjoy this anymore. He might like something. He might get into acting, bro.
He might not enjoy it now. Who fucking knows? Because it's different with like artists like Tyler. Like you said, like they get.
But when you get that opportunity, are you going to turn that chance to run that bag up? Cannot disrespect that one bit.
Make that money.
Get your money, sir.
Get that money, Nas. And literally the only issue I had with him whenever he first came out is he had Nas in his name, and then at like Nasir Jones hopped on the remix to Old Town Road or some song with him. I think it might have been Panini, but like old Nas, like Illmatic Nas hopped on it, and I was like, well, whatever. He gives you the pass. I gotta give you the pass.
It's got that stamp.
I don't even care no more. Everything else is passable like that. I'll let that nigga rock, because at the end of the day, he's doing what he does in his own realm. He's a pop star. Like, I'm not going to judge a pop star for the things that I expect a rapper to do. He's not a rapper. He's in the rap game. But we always say, rap music is pop music now. So people are going to start realizing it too because of artists like that. Like,
you got to pay really close attention to the words somebody might use to describe themselves. Mm-hmm. Like, some people will literally call themselves like a star, and some people will call themselves a music artist.
Right.
And like, it says a lot about the motivation behind why they make music.
Even like Money Man. That's a super underrated artist where like he just considers himself a businessman. I don't feel like he considers himself a rapper, almost like a Chameleonaire. If Money Man just stopped making music, because obviously Chameleonaire just kind of disappeared. Like, you gotta look up his shit to figure out what happened with him, but he got into cryptocurrency and a whole different other type of bag. Like,
that's that businessman shit though, man.
But just like Money Man, if he were to stop rapping this year in 2021 and was like, yo, I'm doing too much other business shit to where this does not make enough money for me to take my time to do it, I'll just do it for fun done later, I would not be surprised in the slightest. And then that's whenever people will like actually look into like, what was he actually into? Oh, he actually was into cryptocurrency. Oh, he did actually maybe do some hustling stuff on the side back in the day or whatever, 7 to 10 years ago. Like, but at the end of the day, like, there's artists like that don't get the same credit. But then Lil Baby knows about Money Man, you know, like, and that's one of the top artists in the game. Can't nobody refute that point. He still did a feature with Money Man because he knows Money Man is a good artist. And Money Man has bars. It's just people don't really, they're not really breaking down the music all the way, almost like a Freddie Gibbs, where it's like they just, oh yeah, he's cool, whatever. But it's like, if you really look like breaking down what he's saying, how he even came in the game, this nigga was signed to Young Jeezy, got up under Jeezy's label, started beefing with Jeezy, has survived throughout the whole shit, has still picked on Jeezy, like pretty much got academics demoted in the public's eye. Like, Freddie Gibbs be doing a lot and not a lot at the same time, because that's just his personality. Like, he's very much so influential, and he's a fire-ass rapper, but people just don't really give him the flowers right now.
He was nominated for a Grammy, wasn't he?
This was the most, and like any Freddie Gibbs fan, anybody that even knows about Freddie Gibbs knows that he's been killing. It's almost like Currency fans. Like, if you're a Currency fan, you know Currency's been killing the game for a minute now, and he doesn't get the credit that he deserves. But they're okay with that. They're just staying in their little lane. They're more so slept on than underrated in a sense.
The underrated to me is an industry thing. Like, almost like it's an industry thing,
right?
Where like your viewers and your listeners, that's where being slept on comes from,
right?
Because that was one of the things. Is like, I know when we started talking about it, we were talking about we were just listening.
We separated them too much.
Yeah,
because it is the same thing. You can't be slept on if you're not underrated.
Correct. Like,
you can be underrated and not.
Just like you can't be slept on if like. You can't be underrated if you're not slept on. You can't be hated if you're not slept on. You can be underrated if you're not hated.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I'm about to just start like naming off rappers and be like, what do you think they are the most?
Ooh. Young M.A.
Young M.A.
She's a fire-ass lyricist. And her music is like that new school type of like New York dope.
I feel like she's mostly underrated.
Okay.
Because I feel like if you ask anybody about her, they all
knows about her music though.
But it's anybody who's ever been told about her does listen to her. I don't know too many people who have said, I don't want to listen to that. Once you're like, check this chick out, they're like, oh yeah, let me check that out, and they fuck with her. She's not really like, people don't just like forget about her. Let's see.
Young Dolph. I don't know if I said that shit in the mic.
Young Dolph.
I feel like he's underrated as a whole because we forget a lot of the hits that Dolph has like put out. I feel like I don't hear those songs enough. Like, that man has dropped some
I do feel
hits.
like all of his big stuff everybody hears. And nobody's really sitting there being like, oh, fuck that.
Never.
He's not getting replayed a lot. Like you said, yeah, he's not getting replayed a lot.
I don't get it.
Said.
I don't get it. Like, Dolph is a very much so well-rounded artist, but he gets treated almost like he gets lumped into like just a regular trap nigga shit.
All right, I got a good one,
all
actually.
Right. Let's hear it.
The actual self-proclaimed most hated.
Ooh. I don't even agree with that. I don't think
he's the most hated.
In his city, maybe, like, just because, like, maybe not in his section, but maybe in his city.
I wouldn't say underrated, because I'll say that like Fredo's coming up. He's coming up, and he hasn't had the time to really make that footprint. I'll just say, like, because of the situations and that
he's a little slept on.
He's a little just slept on
by
his peers. I feel like
his peers know that he's fire. Because as soon as he dropped, that was whenever I knew that boy had it.
If he's hated by anyone, it's the industry, not the listeners.
Yeah.
The listeners don't have a lot of hate for him like that, unless they are literal young boy dick riders.
Right. Yeah, that's the only way you're really gonna hate Fredo Bang's music. Cause he don't really be doing nothing like that. Nigga just be chilling, hanging out with the same rappers, like minding his business. But at the end of the day, like, those beefs transcend a lot of the a lot of the listeners where they feel like they got to be a part of it.
Would you say this guy is all three, or would you say that because of the description we gave for underrated with Sauce Walker, that doesn't necessarily apply because he's probably in the pocket he's okay with? Tech.
Ooh. Honestly, I feel like he's very much so okay with the pocket that he's in, but I do feel like he will want to be bigger. So I feel like he's very much so. I don't even think he's hated. I definitely don't even think he's hated. I just think he's very underrated and slept on. Like, well, underrated. Like, we already established the same shit. He's very underrated because at the end of the day,
I will say most of the people I know that are your stereotypical young boy fans love Tech's music. Mm-hmm. They don't, regardless of whatever situation could be going on down there.
They still like his music.
They still like Tech more than they like Fredo, considering everything.
For sure.
They'll hate Fredo in a second.
Tech usually gets a pass because he started, like, his career blew up before G Money and the TBG shit and before the NBA shit. So, like, him and Maine had their whole little wave with the Spider Nation shit before either one of those groups. So for the fact, just for the simple fact that he's had that buzz longer technically and has maintained it, with Maine getting locked up and all that shit, like free Maine, like that nigga's still locked up right now. This is right hand man. They don't really have but so many artists in that shit. Like, I think it's like, oh, that bitch is running. You about to kill it. I forgot the other dude, like Dez the Ghost or some shit like that. Like, they only got like 2-3 artists. Like, the other main dude is locked up. So it's like, the fact that Tech is still kind of doing his little 1-2 and has the music still rolling to where if he drops something, I'm going to listen to it. I don't give a fuck. Like, he's still making good music. So I think that he's very much so underrated at this point.
No cap.
He's definitely underrated.
I would make the argument to say that regardless of how anybody feels about him or his music, that him and Rilo made an effort to repopularize rap punchlines.
Made a big effort.
And with the way he gets treated in response to everything, with all that taken into account, he's definitely underrated to me. Because he is very much retrending and repopularizing a huge part of hip-hop within the industry.
And he's flipping it. He's doing it in a different way, too. The way he does his metaphors is like almost in reverse. Or he'll like stack them. Like,
yeah, that's what I was about to say. It's not even like, it's not like direct wordplay. It's like, it's complex. It's layered as fuck. Like, very layered. That's a different artist. It's something I had to get used to.
Yeah. You can't just listen no cap. Like, it's almost
I did
like
not like his music.
It's almost like a Lil Baby for me at first. Lil Baby for me, whenever I first heard him, like the flow was dope. Like, I liked the music, but it took me a little bit to like really be able to understand what he was saying. To be like, oh yeah, this nigga's kind of spitting a little bit. Like,
that's how I felt about Uzi. And now you know me. That's one of my favorite artists.
Same thing with me and Wretch. Because the stuff that I first heard compared to like the stuff that I was reintroduced to later, like on Polo Sporting Goods, he was like rapping. And then on Still Up, like I was like, what the fuck is this? Like, this nigga's making a whole vibe. Like, it was like the beat was louder than his voice, like almost on purpose, to where you just kind of vibing out to the shit. You're not really paying attention to the lyrics, but then if you hear it, he's spitting some dope shit at the same time. People probably say the same thing about like Future Amigos, though, if they're not from the South, you know, first time hearing their lyrics, because they're very. That was another thing I forgot to say about Big Crit. Big Crit is an artist that a lot of people didn't understand his Southern draw whenever he was talking and spitting. So a lot of the lines went over people's heads whenever they first heard this shit, because he was spitting like a New York nigga, but he was so Southern. I think he's from Mississippi, to where it's just like, this nigga's Southern. Like,
well, with that said, thanks for joining us today on Forreal. Do us a favor if you're watching us on YouTube, hit that subscribe button down there. It's down there. And then like, comment, all that good stuff. If you're listening to it as a podcast, hit that follow button. You'll be updated whenever we drop a new episode. Go ahead, give us a comment, some feedback. Let us know what you like, what you don't like, what you like to hear about, all the good stuff. And hopefully next time I think we'll probably have a guest on. And that's it. Appreciate you. Y'all
Appreciate it. Oh, I'm the one that's got to stop it.
That's all you. That's all right. Give you a minute so it'll give me time to cut.
Oh, fucking dead.